see me there. Eye to eye, compromise is fair.
So this is Judi Diamond and
Jamie Allman. It's funny how you say it, this is Judi Diamond and I'd say I'm Jamie Allman when actually what happens is sometimes I'm Judi Diamond and you're Jamie Allman.
Really?
Isn't it interesting how we converse and eventually have, our conversations? Sometimes you'd be surprised how much it switches.
Oh, on our belief system and stuff?
Yeah.
This is why I had this thought, this idea. So the whole reason why I wanted to do this was because I want people to connect on a deeper level than what they first perceive. So I thought of two things we could do. And this is something that I thought, if you're meeting somebody or somebody you work with or somebody that is a friend of maybe your husband's or boyfriend, something like that. And you're like, oh gosh, they're a Democrat or a conservative or liberal, whatever.
Right.
You're going to have these preconceived notions. Mm-hmm. What if you did something that made you learn about this person before you even knew that, or even after you knew that? So in other words, you took all those preconceived notions away.
Right.
So I thought, well, let's do that with you and I. So there's two things we can do, and it's up to you. There's a game where I have a bag full of questions we can answer. Just pull them out of the bag and see what you say.
This is like one of those little, don't they do this like when employees all get together at like some kind of retreat or something and they do the trust thing?
Yeah, but this isn't trust. These are really stupid questions.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
But it's how to get to know somebody regardless of what their political views are.
Yes, I love that.
Do you love this?
I absolutely do, because I think it's important because we always delineate on those political spectrums and guess whether it's funny these days, everybody's guessing whether somebody's a liberal or a conservative now, and don't guess whether or not they're a great dad or a great mom or just a great person or what books they've read lately or music they listened to recently, what have you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that.
I thought you'd like that. Now,
but these are called big questions.
This is a really silly game that actually it's for kids. So some of them might involve school, so I might get rid of those.
Okay, I was bad at math. Okay, I got that one answered already.
Okay, so then I'm going to pick one and then you'll pick one.
Okay.
And I'll answer. Okay, so this kind of, you're bad at math.
I like this.
Okay, so we'll start with, what is your biggest fear?
Ooh.
I know.
And it's funny that you say that because my biggest fear is not anything that is related to anything big. You know what I mean? Like, I don't fear failure.
Okay.
I don't fear criticism. Mm-hmm. Heaven knows. Because I've put myself in there. I've lived, in my opinion, a great life where I have been at the top of the heap and the bottom of the barrel. You know what I mean? I
do totally know.
And I've been all right with that. Criticism was not a thing. And it really is very basic. I fear not being able to provide for my babies. That's my biggest fear.
I think that's it's a fear I could relate to.
Yeah.
Wow. I was surprised, but it's still, no, not really, because it still has to do with your kids.
Yeah. I think it's a provider type of fear, and I've always been that way.
Yeah.
That my biggest accomplishment, I think, is providing for my babies and for my kids and whatever else. And I fear that being the thing that's, and maybe that's a part of what has happened with me of late. And so I'm always fearful of that part of it. I mean, I don't fear being able to love somebody. I don't fear losing my heart. I don't fear losing my brain. I don't fear being fired or anything like that. I fear not being able to provide. That's my biggest thing. That's a big deal for me.
That's very relatable.
Yeah.
I totally get that. It's funny. I should have that fear. For some reason, I always feel like, something will happen. I'll be fine. I think my biggest fear for me is I don't want to die alone.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to grow old alone. But that's probably my biggest fear, because I know that my kids are good.
Yeah.
I have great friends and I'm happy.
Yeah.
And when I'm down, it's okay. It's how I learn to be happy again,
Yeah, I think, well, then if you want to get deeper on that level of it, I sometimes, my dad was an example of that. My dad really had a rough time late in life. And sometimes maybe that's tied into fearing, running out of money and running out of resources, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I talked to some people about how, I just want to be cremated. I don't really care, whatever. I don't need to be buried next to anybody. And I get that.
Well, I don't necessarily need to be buried next to it, but I see my mom and dad in their 80s still holding hands.
Oh, yeah.
Still so in love. And I want that. And so that's it. It's a silly little thing that may never happen, and that's okay. I've accepted it.
Right.
But yeah, that is probably my biggest fear.
Yeah, and mine seems to be more along the lines of something that is really kind of gratuitous, running out of money, that kind of thing. But to your point, I think we all want to find that love, find that time where we can be with somebody after going through rough periods in our most of our life and doing all that we could do for people and being nice and trying to be good and being kind to our babies, that kind of thing. But in the end, I never forget one time being at a ball game, and there's this 80-year-old couple. They're at a ball game, and they're actually holding hands at the ball game. And that was the sweetest thing I ever saw.
Yeah. I love it
and I
when
would
I see
love
my
to
parents.
have that someday in my life.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. So you can ask that if you're listening to this. Ask this of somebody that you may not know very well, just for the heck of it.
Yeah.
They might look at you like you're crazy, but so what?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of a
it's
cool
funny.
question.
I think that in terms of fears, I've gone through. Sometimes I think I'm not fearful enough. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I think that I don't, play the game enough defensively. And so, we've talked about this before, where you put yourself out there, you do your thing, and you're fearless in that sense. But then suddenly you realize, I should have probably been more fearful. I didn't know this person was going to drill me at the end or whatever. But I can't live my life with fear.
Fear is a 4-letter word.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's worse than the other one.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
That's my own opinion.
Yeah.
I think it rules the world, and it's like...
Well, and people act on fear, but unfortunately sometimes people act on fear, but it's not about being fearful and then improving yourself. It's about being fearful and meting out some punishment on somebody else around you.
Yes.
And that's when the fearful person becomes devastating.
That's when war happens.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, it's your turn. You get to pick. Now, if it's a kiddo question, because, then you have to pick a different one. Because, if it's silly.
Oh, I like this.
Okay.
What's your favorite flavor popsicle? I'm kidding.
A big stick. It sounds worse. Okay, don't even go there.
Well, you know what?
Everybody likes it, but come on.
The Bomb Pop? You mean?
No, it's called the Big Stick. I grew up in LA, California. It was called the Big Stick.
Oh.
A Bomb Pop looks like a rocket ship. Two different things.
Yeah.
Two different
things. What's the Big Stick look like?
Oh my God.
What?
Next.
But the Bomb Pop is great.
Look it up. You'll see.
All right.
Are you turning red?
Listen to that. Because I was just thinking it would be. I was just thinking more about going after the lemon lime part of it, and you were thinking something completely different.
Of course, I always do.
There you go. All right. Do you think crying is a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a wonderful thing. Except at work. I've cried at work. That's not smart, but I've done it. You're not supposed to cry in front of your boss, and I've done it. I couldn't hold it in.
Well, was it something about being having a problem at work, or?
Yes, it was having a problem with work, and the person's no longer working there. We were having issues, and the boss man brought it up. I wasn't expecting it right in front of the other person that's no longer there. It was very uncomfortable. I started crying because out of total uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then when I came home, I'm telling my dad. My dad's like, darling. His English accent comes out when he's telling me what to do. You shouldn't cry at work. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you cry mostly alone, or do you cry when you're with somebody? Because I find it, I have a tendency to, if I am going to cry in any way, and usually it's related to my parents or something,
right.
most often than not. And just things, I could go see my mom for like 2 hours, and I'll sit in the car and I'll just just cry in happiness, almost, really, in
you got
sentimentality.
To spend time with her,
yeah. So, but generally I don't really cry. It's hard for me to do that in front of people sometimes.
Do you think that's not to be sexist, but honestly, male, female thing? Because I don't care if I cry in front of people or not. I could cry in a movie. I was watching a film on a plane and I thought I was the only one crying. Aww. And I'm sitting there, and then I turn around and look back and I see the whole airplane is crying. It was that dog movie. I can't remember, Marlowe, something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
Everyone watching the same movie.
Everyone was watching the same
That's
movie.
so
Everyone
awesome.
was crying. Guys, and the guys are like kind of trying to hide it. So I don't have an issue with crying. Just I shouldn't have cried at work. You're not supposed to cry at work.
Right.
Because it takes away your strength and all that. Which I don't know if that's true or not. But.
Well, I have to tell you, in all honesty, though, having been in some relationships, I have to tell you that crying sometimes will, and I know this is going to sound weird to people, but sometimes I think there are some people who cry and it's a manipulation thing. It's like yelling.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
No, I don't.
Like I will sometimes equate crying with yelling because crying sometimes among some people is a manipulation factor because you can't communicate with somebody crying because of something like they perceived you did.
So you're saying
whatever.
Like passive aggressive almost?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and again, it's not like kids don't do that, but when adults learn it, like kids know, for instance, innately that sometimes crying will get them a lot of places.
They become teenagers and they know what they're doing.
Exactly. But sometimes people like in relationships will do it. And there's no defense of yourself when you've made somebody cry, or when they perceive you as making them cry. You know what I mean?
Wow. See, that you say that, I'm completely the opposite. Relationships.
Yeah.
I don't want them to see me cry. I'm like, you are not going to get to me. I'm not going to.
Right.
Nope. You didn't make me cry. You didn't make me cry.
Well, I think there's two ways that women and men manipulate each other. I think the women will cry, men will yell.
Yeah.
And men yelling is like women crying in some cases.
Is it a control thing?
It's a control thing. It's like they want to men. I'll just stay for men. The men who yell, for instance, will do it as a means of controlling somebody else or intimidating somebody else. Because when you yell, it's very intimidating.
Right.
When you're being yelled at.
Right.
You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And people who yell know that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's very intimidating to be cried at. And people know that too.
Wow.
And so it's really weird because it's sometimes in certain relationships that becomes the toxic type of mix that happens.
I mean, I've seen it happen. Definitely, I've seen it happen with friends, and if somebody yells at me, I turn off.
Yeah.
I completely close off, shut down, don't hear.
Yeah.
And so I just if you're yelling, I'm not hearing you.
Right.
So
well,
that's interesting.
And then also, I come from German stock, so I've never seen my mom cry except maybe like the last 2 years we talk about her family, that kind of thing. But otherwise, never saw my mom cry, never saw her sick, never done it. Wow. I saw my dad cry one time because it was in the aftermath of his dad's death. And that was about it.
See, that was one more time than I saw my dad cry.
Yeah.
I've never seen my dad cry. I've seen my mom cry a lot. She cries at the drop of a hat like I do. But my dad's English. And I even brought that up to him and said, Dad, I've never seen you cry. And he just was very matter of factly. He goes, no, I don't really cry, do I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think crying alone is very therapeutic sometimes. Literally, I have been broken down, whatever. But that's just between me and myself, at that point. And God just kind of, I'll cry and I'll be weak and I'll figure it out while that's happening. But
I've done that, you say, with God when I meditated or all of a sudden, in fact, this happened last week. I was meditating and something happened. I don't know what. And I just started bawling. And I felt this. I almost felt like arms wrapped around me.
Yep.
It was the weirdest, strangest thing. Like my guardian angels were there.
Yeah.
And it was a good cry. I needed it. It felt so good. So
because it's a kind of a beautiful kind of weakness.
Yeah.
And it's not
You're
bad
vulnerable.
to be weak. Sometimes people need to be weaker, at least when they're alone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that frees you to be more vulnerable when you're with somebody else and more loving when you're with somebody else after you have already been at a point of weakness yourself.
Yes, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of thing you do. These are all, I think I got this, like I said, I got this game from some store. I think it was Five Below, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
And I tried to use it on air, and then my co-host said, we don't have time for that. So we're doing it here instead.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
We don't have time for that. But so that was fun.
Is that it?
No,
it
we
over?
can do another one.
Okay.
One more. Because then I figured, I have another idea. But we'll save that for a different episode.
Well, we could do it still. We've got time.
Oh, I know. Okay, one more. Let's see. Yeah.
And then I get one more too, right?
Yeah.
Right. That good? Because I can.
Oh, this is
like
good.
This.
So this is normally for a kid, but I'm going to ask you of it anyway. And you think about this on a deeper level. Again, getting to know someone, if you're just listening, Jamie Allman, Judi Diamond, and it's all about just kind of, I don't know, there's a song at the end, eye to eye, seeing eye to eye.
Yeah.
How do you compromise seeing eye to eye when you come from different walks of life, different where your thought processes are politically, for example. So this question is, why is sharing important?
Why is sharing important? Well, it's kind of like, if like I love giving gifts. I love giving people things. I love giving people things, and I don't really necessarily like receiving things. I don't receive things very well. Yeah. And plus I never feel like I deserve it, blah, blah, blah. But I love giving things. So to me, that level of sharing and that level of giving to somebody is a level of sharing, although it seems to be kind of weird because I don't accept somebody else's sharing necessarily.
It's the language of love. What are the 5 languages, or what they say of love is gifts. And I didn't understand that until I read the book.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, I love giving. I hate receiving. Same thing.
Right.
And it's I think it's once you get to, and I haven't gotten there yet, but when you get to the point of where you deserve it, then I think you'll enjoy getting it more.
Oh yeah. Or just and I think sometimes it's just a block there, but I think sharing, and I think kids don't understand the sharing part of it because they're always told they have to share, but they're never told why. They're never really, you never explain to a kid, now you share. And parents never really explain to kids. Although, I mean, listen, you're 5 years old. You're not going to sit there going, now here's what we're going to talk about with sharing. But they're not told why that's important. And it's important because really what you're doing is you're sharing something you enjoy with somebody. It's kind of like people.
Sharing a piece of you.
I love cooking for people. I love making drinks for people. I love if you tell me that you like something, like if you make the mistake of telling me you love something, I'm going to give you something the very next day.
Jamie gave me brought a really great bottle of gin.
Yeah, there you go.
It's my new favorite gin now.
Yeah, right. It's right.
So thank you.
Well, I mean, you told me, I remembered.
Yeah,
you like something.
Yeah.
But if somebody tells me they love something or they like something, it'll be like literally in their mailbox the next day or the next day, and that's good. It's not that it makes me feel good. I like showing people that I love them, respect them, love that they want. And that's kind of my way of telling people that I think they're special and I appreciate them. But I love doing that. I love giving and sharing.
And you share of yourself every single morning on your show. So
yeah.
Think about that. You're sharing yourself. That's a huge thing. A lot of people can't do that.
Right.
Or wouldn't even think of doing themselves. You leave yourself very open and vulnerable when you do a radio show. I mean, you have a program and that's sharing in its own way. So,
well, and what's weird is I must have some kind of hang up because do not give me a spoon after you're having ice cream and do not put that spoon in my mouth after you did that. You know what I mean?
No,
I don't know why. Don't give me I don't want to drink the soda that you're drinking.
You don't want to be tempted.
Well, no, I just don't want to. That part is the food thing is weird to me. I don't want people putting forks of something they like into my mouth. You know what I mean?
Is it my sister was like that. She would not take a sip from my cup.
I know.
Why would you take a sip? We're sisters.
I know, but it's
then she got me all like that. I used to be I'd share everything. Then she got me. She goes, well, you're doing this was way before COVID. We were kids. And so then she taught me not to share my drink. Well, I never was like that.
Well, it's like somebody says, you want some water? And they hand me the water.
Right.
I'm like, I am not drinking out of that water bottle. And I'm not a germaphobe either.
No.
I make the most disgusting disgusting choices you could possibly make in terms of things. But I for some reason, I got a hang up about that. I want to eat your food. You know what I mean?
So just do not give Jamie any food from your plate. All right, he doesn't want to eat it. Give him his own plate of food.
And don't be putting your fork in my food either.
Okay.
Isn't that weird? Is that weird?
No, we all have weird things. I have a ton of them. I just haven't shared any.
I mean, I'm not disgusted by much because,
I have an idea. So I was told this first episode we did before was like too long. So I'm cutting this into two.
Wait, I didn't do my question for you yet.
Oh,
though.
yeah. Okay, one more. And
One
then
more?
I have one for...
Am I boring you, Judi?
No,
Okay.
no, God,
I'm just
no.
kidding. I'm just joking.
I'm doing the typical like media thing, broadcasting, where you look at the time.
I don't know. This is kind of...
No, don't get a lame one. Use one that's decent.
I mean, this doesn't seem...
If it's lame, no.
This one is what motivates you to try to be your best. I'm like, this isn't up with people here. This is interesting. This is
Okay.
good. I mean, because I think you, after talking to you about your love of your family and all of your wonderful family, I think this is nice. Name a personal possession that you'd never sell, no matter how much money you were offered.
Oh God, this is hard.
You probably have a whole list of them. However,
No, because I've been, ever since my divorce, I've moved 5 times. And so ever since I've been whittling down things to what's important. What is one thing? Wow. Okay. It's actually one thing that holds a few things in it. It's actually a fireproof little safe that holds some of my precious photos.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the one thing.
The photos are the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I should really do something about getting them digitally down.
Yeah.
So that would be the smart thing.
Yeah.
Oh, and a baby rattle. That's it. My baby rattle.
And your soul, which we know.
Yeah.
Judi.
It's locked up in that,
You'd never
in that fireproof
Sell
safe.
your soul.
Not that
And
I
you have
know
it your
of.
whole life. That's good.
I don't know. Maybe, and I just don't know it. I hope not.
No.
Nah.
It's good.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your next big idea? I'm glad you told me before we did this that you were like, I have these ideas. And I'm like, I love that you trust me enough to have your great ideas.
Are you
So
cool
good.
with this? Because
Absolutely.
isn't this what this is really all about? Is people connecting no matter what their differences are, whether it's opinion,
Yeah.
short, tall, skinny, heavy. I don't care. I don't care what your religion is. Let's get
Yeah.
human. Let's get to
Well-
instead of what makes us different, what makes us alike? What do we
Right.
relate to?
And would you believe that I think the only thing that really makes you and I different in the end, although aside from a variety of different personality things, those kind of things, you know what I'm talking about. But if we're told that the main thing that differentiates us is how we vote, and it's just not the case. It's not true. I mean,
yet people think that way all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, which leads me to the next episode, which I really looking forward to, which is how do you perceive somebody? So, I want to go into what my perception of was you and what people told me and the real you and vice versa. And then because I want to open that up to anybody who is listening who thinks they know somebody. And this should be interesting. Interesting conversation.
So that's the next episode?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
What do you think? You know, I'm not in charge. I'm just throwing things out there.
So is this episode over?
Yeah.
Oh.
Until next time.
Okay. Well, can we could tease it.
Okay.
Which I think would be interesting.
I think we just did. You tease it.
Well, I mean, you did. That was a good job. I was just
Now it's
saying
your
that.
turn.
Well, I will just say that it's interesting that you and I wind up doing this.
Right.
Because I think that when both of us came into, when I came into iHeart, you'd already been at iHeart for a long time and #1 rated, great broadcaster, legendary.
I don't know about that.
I know,
where did you hear all? Okay, that'll be on the next
Well, no,
one.
I didn't hear that. Nobody told me that. I could figure that out for myself.
Oh, thanks.
But it was funny because for some reason people thought it was important for me to know who the liberals were in the operation.
That's
You know what I mean?
Funny, yes.
Yeah. And nobody, and it was weird because the first thing someone talked about was like, hey, so Judy's, she's probably a liberal. She probably doesn't even, like
Right.
Judy. I'm like, oh, okay. I've never met her before, and I've seen her, and in the beginning we were kind of in and out of little. I guess
we'd pass.
Yeah, right.
Because our shows are at the same time. We both do morning shows. So,
right.
Yeah.
But every time I saw you, were like so happy. You know, hi, how are you doing?
Yeah.
But I always felt like it wasn't as much a way for them to have me be worried about you, whatever. I think it was a way that was set up. Well, I think it was a means of actually not really having me watch out for you, but they didn't want me to like you. You know what I mean? It wasn't that they were warning me that you didn't like me. They didn't want me to somehow like you. You know, the same kind of people who love that kind of division stuff. Yeah. Because it wouldn't have mattered. And then, so what happened is then when I saw you after someone said that, I was always thinking, when we were at little events, you know, at the Foundry or whatever and things like that, I was thinking, gosh, she probably has an opinion about me because they wanted to plant the seed that you had the opinion about me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And even though you and I never talked.
Right.
And so I was watching you. I saw you. She probably hates my guts. And really, in the end, but I never was afraid of that because I was like, hey, how are you? And you were always so nice. But you were always kind of like in and out. You were kind of.
I'm a squirrel. That's just me.
I know. And so we never had a chance to talk. But it was kind of just funny how that setup happens and how people will set people up to almost be adversaries, even though we've never even talked.
And this is exactly why I want to do this, because this is people. This is politics, people. You listen to this. This is why we're doing this.
Yeah.
So I cannot wait to share my first thoughts of the station that you were doing, the first thoughts, and then what happened, because I think you might be surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I will be.
Yeah, it should be interesting and good.
It's been a great exercise, if anything, because I think that it teaches people that you really should not let other people dictate your interactions with other people. You certainly shouldn't let the media or political parties or political people dictate your interactions with people. And it's truth that when left to our own devices, we can have a lot of fun together. We can reveal a lot about a lot of things about our lives and things like that really connect us, as opposed to all the things that maybe disconnect us, that they want us to kind of talk about.
Yeah. I look at my kid, still my son Leo for sure, my daughter Shira, when they were little, they were friends with all races. They didn't know. They didn't know the difference. They didn't care what their family was raised or how they were raised. They didn't know any of that. So let's go back a little bit to childhood and become kids again.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, and people think, well, that's too hippy dippy. It's like, well, wait a minute. What's your alternative?
Right.
What's your alternative? Are you really want to live in the world where we're pitted against each other, where we're designated by our political beliefs as opposed to our beliefs about life and about our future, about our past, about popsicle flavors or whatever,
Big sticks.
Right.
People are going to be going, oh my God, Judi. It's a flavor, I promise. It's like
people are looking it up right now, I guess.
They are. It reminds me of something that Mother Teresa said. Somebody once asked her if she was going to go to this protest, and she goes, I don't do protests. I don't believe in it's a negative thing. If I'm going to do a peace test, then I'll do something for peace.
Right.
And I thought, it's about being positive.
Yeah.
How are you going to be positive instead of being anti? How are we going to be pro? So this is a way to be proactive.
I keep telling you, you won't admit it, that you're a godly person. You just won't ever admit it. You're quoting Mother Teresa. I'm just telling you, I'm not trying to convince you to go to church. What I'm saying is you might talk about, we've talked about this before, but you might talk about how I'm not this. But the reality is this is another example of how you don't have to go to church. You don't have to be a Catholic. You don't have to do this to quote Mother Teresa. Maybe that's where we're at right now, where just because someone quotes Mother Teresa doesn't mean, of course, they're religious.
It means
they're spiritual and they love the world. And, I think.
Shouldn't that be enough?
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Do I have to believe that,
No, you don't.
So, yeah.
As I explained the first time around, but I think it's interesting that you kind of live in almost the perfect world where you have somebody who is confident in your beliefs, confident in your spirit, and you can quote Buddha or you can quote Mother Teresa, and that's the world we all ought to live in. You know, you could quote Martin Luther King and Ronald Reagan. Whatever you know what I mean? It's impossible to do that without being tied to some faction.
If people are open, yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. If people are
They're open and malleable and just relate.
Yeah.
You know, to each other. Yeah.
Well, so we're virtual can openers is
There
what
you
we
go.
are. We're
Sure.
opening
Let's hope.
cans left and right.
Yep. Again, you brought up media during the show, and we are media. So how about if we do media for change for people that are to say, you know, we all bleed red.
Yeah.
We're all the same blood color. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you do, what you believe.
Yeah.
You know? I might be O positive, but
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Well, I mean, what did Ringo Starr say, right? Peace and love?
Yep.
It's like, isn't it? That's
Did
pretty
you
simple.
just quote Ringo?
I see.
Wow.
See, there you go.
Dude.
Next thing you know, it's going to be George Harrison.
Oh, man. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Judi.
And appreciate you
You're
very
the best.
much. Thanks
For the questions. Great ideas.
It's fun. We'll do something crazy. You can bring anything you want. I'm open to. If you have a crazy idea, bring it. He's like, okay.
I love it. No, I'm there. You just got then suddenly you're like, okay, well then challenge is accepted.
I love it.
I'm good.
Until then, namaste well.
Thank you, Judi.
It's why we fight it out and make up again. Every moment is different when we try to see eye to eye. Eye to eye. Try to see me there. Eye to eye. Compromise is fair. Eye to eye. Try to see me